Top of the St. Patty's Day morning to you, friendo.
Is this St. Patrick's Day today?
By the time this episode comes out, it will be.
You're right.
Yep. And there we have it.
Yeah.
So now we're gonna rank all of Jaden's favorite songs that have green in them for St. Patrick's Day.
First is any of the Wicked songs.
What about It's Not Easy Being Green, Kermit the Frog?
That's an all-time classic. I'm not even gonna lie.
Well, in other news, if you're watching this video on YouTube, you will actually see the Easter egg that Jaden has hidden, that in the background he has the pillow of a Captain America shield. And we're going to be here reviewing Captain America. So,
It was all part of the plan.
yeah, it was thoroughly thought out,
Yep.
well investigated. Let's talk about this because I've never been a big Captain America guy. Movie-wise, anyways, I really like the comic character.
Right.
But just personally haven't been thrilled with most of his movies. You, on the other hand, kind of other view. I don't know how much you grew up on like comic books of his or that kind of thing, but big fan of the movies.
Right. Yeah. With the comics, like I had here and there. My dad kind of gatekept all of his comics until I was old enough to just want to sell them because he ruined all of them anyway. So I was like, these are junk. So
Yeah,
here and there, I'd catch up on a few comics, but
sure.
yeah.
Yeah, but now post Endgame, we don't have Chris Evans anymore, obviously.
Right.
Anthony Mackie, formerly the hero, the Falcon, Sam Wilson, that's his name, right?
Yeah.
Has now taken the mantle of Captain America. He's basically the Falcon with a shield now, though, is really what it is.
Right.
No super soldier serum. He's basically just the exact same, only different, if you really want to get down to the nitty gritty. But that's neither here nor there. You love The Winter Soldier, the film, which is where we first get introduced to Sam Wilson. How have you felt about his character? I mean, it's been 10 years, like crazy as that seems. It's been 10 years of Sam Wilson in the MCU.
Yeah.
One of the longest performances, like even RDJ capped out at what, 11 years in 2019. He's coming back, obviously,
Right.
but that's its own thing. But like a lot of these guys, he's one of the longest in the MCU, point being. But yeah.
What?
My question that I started that off with was, how do you feel about it?
I really like the Falcon. Let me turn my mic down a little bit. So blasted loud.
Yeah.
I like the Falcon. He's cool. I thought he was always like this, not like a Star-Lord Chris Pratt like comedic outlet, but like he had his comedic moments, especially like when he gets introduced with Bucky later on in the films. He does have this more serious tone about him because he's military. So I've always liked Falcon. I will say though, at the end of Endgame, I wasn't too thrilled with Chris giving him the shield. I personally think it should have went to Bucky. I guess I kind of understand like why he should be the next Captain America, or like within the movie, like I understand the idea that it should be Falcon because he is military. He has been running it with Cap, like
Right.
in the time period, more so than Bucky has. So I get it. I just wasn't too thrilled about it. And I mean, I'm still not that thrilled about it. Like you said, it's Falcon with the shield.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's cool, but I would have went a different route personally.
Yeah. Yeah, and I feel you there. To me, he's always been like, in my view, and maybe this is a personal perception that I like just need to get over myself, but he's to me felt like just the most side character of all side characters, personally. Like, you know what I mean? Like there's side characters and there's side characters that you're like a fan of. And
Yeah,
it's not that I don't like the Falcon or that I don't think he's got cool moments in the MCU or, he's got his funny moments, like you said, and he's got his cool moments. But like just for me, when I see him headlining a movie, it's like I could really care less like as far as character investment in his story. And like I said, maybe that's just a me thing. Maybe it's the fact that like he kind of gets thrown in without much story about who he is. Like he just kind of already is the Falcon. And like
yeah,
sometimes that works, but like I don't know. We're 11 years in and I feel like I don't even know this guy's life at all, really.
yeah. No, I agree.
But that's kind of a me thing. But anyways, I definitely went into this movie with a lot of reservation just because I heard it wasn't that good. The MCU has struggled with their quality lately. I did have a little bit of a sense of optimism because I do feel like Harrison Ford frequently finds himself in these film roles where he's playing something in these sci-fi movies that could go awry very easily. And he usually like bodies it. Like he
Yeah,
usually puts on a fantastic performance. So I was like, okay, let's see how he does. His press run prior to this did not make me excited. Like he did not like seem like he cared about it at all or like he tried at all in the performance.
yeah.
Um, but maybe that's just his demeanor. But anyways, how were you feeling before we went in to watch this movie?
Lowest of low expectations.
Yeah,
We've seen time and time again Marvel fail and fail and fail with
yeah,
at least like I'd say more so on the movie side of things. I don't think their
sure,
TV shows are at that level. I think their TV shows like hit or miss, but not like a consistent like bad, 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 bad.
sure.
Um, so and on top of that, like I'm not excited for a movie when I see that the writers themselves say, "Yeah, we all know that this movie's gonna suck." Like, why are you saying that out to the public? Like, what are we doing here? If that's where you're at, scrap it all and start over. If you already
Yeah,
know it's gonna be trash because you, the writers, are making it garbage, probably should go a different direction. Um,
yeah,
I really didn't have any good expectations from the get go. Like some of my friends, like, oh, you're gonna go see the Captain America movie when it first comes out, and I just
yeah,
straight up no, like, no, I'm cool. Like I don't really
yeah,
care. Um, so like if we didn't decide to do an episode on it, I probably would have waited till it came out on like Disney Plus to see
yeah,
it.
sure.
Um,
Yeah.
so just the lowest of low expectations.
Yeah. And I mean, before we jump into like the full shebang here, spoilers and all, just on a spoiler free note, I will say I enjoyed it more than I thought I would. Like just going in with those bare bottom of the barrel is assumptions about the quality of the movie. I was
Yeah.
pleasantly surprised that it wasn't like utter garbage. It's not top half of the
Mm-mm.
Marvel franchise, but it's better than I would say a good majority of the recent stuff that I've seen film wise. It's far from the worst Marvel films they've done. Whether you look at that as you know Secret Invasion comes to mind, but that's not a movie. But like Black Widow, for example,
Yeah.
or a lot of people aren't Captain Marvel fans, so like things like that. It's way better than those to me, but definitely had my gripes with it. It felt like it kind of my biggest flaw with it is it sets up such a it lets you know how interesting the plot could be and
Mm-hmm.
then or how interesting just all of the aspects of the movie could be and then doesn't really like ever achieve anywhere near those heights that it kind of sets out that it could be.
Yeah.
But yeah, how about for you?
I agree. It definitely was better than I initially thought it was going to be. Even like the trailers, like I don't think the CGI is like all that awful. I've seen
Yeah.
way worse.
Right.
I think it was funnier than I expected it to be. There's moments and at least one character that had me laughing kind of throughout the film, and so I think with those kinds of aspects, like it definitely helped lift up the film.
Sure.
Like you said, it's nowhere near the bottom. Like in my eyes now, it's like probably a good almost middle of the pack, but like on the lower end of the middle of the
Sure.
pack when it comes to
Yeah.
MCU. Um, like if I were to do a marathon of these movies, I wouldn't skip it. Like I'd probably watch it
Sure.
again, like
Yeah.
just to do it, but I wouldn't pay for it again.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna end off with saying as far as spoiler free stuff as well. Like if you're considering watching it, really the only people I would be like, yeah, go see this is if you're just a diehard MCU fan, you've loved everything they've put out, you love the characters, like that's your movie that you like your type of movie that you enjoy. Sure, like, it's going to have elements that you're going to like, then go see
Yeah,
it. But if you're like someone that's just kind of a casual fan or you like their great stuff and don't love others, then like, yeah, just wait for it to come out on Disney Plus. If it seems like something you want to watch, then give it a watch. But, other than that, it's not too crazy.
yeah,
But to jump into, spoiler warning, I don't know how much we'll cover, but spoiler warning from here on out. To jump into the plot here, um, I kind of hinted at the fact that I felt like they could have done a lot of cool stuff with it. But they didn't really. One of my, like, the first things that I just didn't love about the plot is it brings these two what feels like to me drastically different storylines um, that are just completely separate ideas, not anywhere connected as far as timeline or as far as character wise, and then just pulls them together sheerly on the basis that like they're both American military backgrounds and
yeah,
like assumes that you're going to be invested and like intrigued because of that and yet does nothing with
yeah,
that like military basis really. um so that was kind of weird. Like they just kind of pulled it together on that one coincidental detail. And it really just failed to develop a whole lot of depth and investment from me. Like it's a pretty short runtime, like hour and 50 minutes. But it just doesn't give you any, at least me personally, I didn't feel any draw to be like invested in the stakes of the story. And not that I need it to always be like an end of the world crazy thing. We've talked about that plenty here on our show about how you can build up the stakes and make people invested by creating interesting dynamics of the plot. And I just didn't feel like they really did that too much. I did like that there was some original aspects, like new characters we haven't seen before that come in and play a big role. The attempt to really kind of look into something political as far as the underlying plot of like the setting of the movie, I thought was interesting. They did different stuff that we're not really super familiar with from Marvel's standpoint. But in a lot of those areas, Marvel's done similar things better. If you're looking at the political nature of things, Civil War is a lot more interesting politically. But yeah, there was some cool original stuff, but it just kind of fell a lot flatter more of the time than not for me. So I gave it a 6.
yeah. I will agree. I think it was. I like that they went away from this. Oh, it's the end of the world and we have to save it. Like, I do appreciate that they took it to a standpoint of something a little bit more political. Um, I just think where they fell, other than just they chose a military little connection thing,
Yeah.
they added things that had loose ends and just kind of pulled it into the film and like new ideas.
Right.
Like I looked at you when we were watching this film when they started talking about the celestial being that's just in the Indian
Yeah.
Ocean, and I'm like, what are we doing? Like, this is
Yeah.
ridiculous. You guys are just throwing that in there because everybody's pissed off that you haven't talked about it since Eternals.
Yeah.
It's super random. Like, I guess it's cool that like, oh, you found adamantium, and so now like
Yeah.
it's a true pull into like that's Wolverine. Um,
Yeah.
but it didn't feel like it fit together. This
Sure.
is very much more of a Hulk film than a Captain America film in my eyes.
Yeah.
It's kind of like with the whole Civil War thing, like it shouldn't have been a Captain America movie. It should have been more of like a Avengers movie, like on a lesser
Yeah.
level. Um, I just I think that's where I was most upset is that we're watching a Cap film, but the plot is for Hulk, and there's no
Yeah.
actual Hulk, and this is just Cap
Yeah.
trying to fix past Hulk problems.
Yeah.
So
I agree.
yeah, it was in that aspect.
It's
It's just like kind of
yeah.
a mess. It's just scrambled a little bit all over the place.
Yeah.
It could have been more catastrophic though. Like the plot could have been really bad. So I'll give them some credit that it was at least cohesive and like you ran with it,
Sure.
but it just didn't feel fitting. So I gave it a 6 as well.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what you just said there, especially talking like it is really a Hulk plot. Like
Yeah,
all the elements of the main plot are Hulk things, and yet, or Eternals even, like that's, that's like a main segment for a majority of it. And I
yeah,
agree with you, like the adamantium angle is cool. Like, we're finally bringing in some of that so we get some hints for other stuff that may be coming down the road. Cool. But despite the fact that it is like a Hulk or Eternals plot with a little bit of Captain America side story as far as like his personal plot, there's very little like Hulk or tie over from that movie. As far as like what's going down in the movie. It's like the underlying thing, but then
yeah.
they don't like do anything to really bring it in until the very end.
Right.
But to segue into the writing aspects of the movie with like dialogue and the tone and all of that, it's a Marvel movie. I get they're going to try to make some sarcastic jokes here and there, and some of them land. It has some funny moments, but there's certainly some cheesy dialogue. Particularly, I forget his name, homeboy that apparently played University of Miami football because he's always wearing Miami football gear throughout the movie, which good for him. But
Sponsor.
yeah, um, like he just had some massively cheesy dialogue. Like he's showing up just saying outrageous stuff, and you're like, what are we doing here? Even Anthony Mackie has a few moments where you're like, what?
Yeah.
But I will say there were a couple of like interesting cathartic thoughts at various times. Like the conversation with Bucky was pretty like interesting as far as their character developments to hear that kind of stuff. And then in the hospital room at the end, seeing that conversation kind of come back full circle with do you remember his name?
No.
The new
New
Falcon.
Falcon. Yeah.
New Falcon. I'll call him that. Shame on me. I forgot his name, but yeah, like to see that kind of come full circle was cool. Plus, there's that like really funny turn at the end of the conversation with Bucky and Anthony Mackie, where he's like, "Did your speechwriters help you out with that?" Little bit at the end. Yeah, that was pretty funny. But I did give writing a 5. It was just, there's some great writing in movies, and there's even some great writing in Marvel movies. Like realistically, there's very few, if any, moments I ever remember Tony Stark's character having poor writing.
Yeah.
And so just compared to like that, it's not great. So I did give it a 5.
Yeah. I'm right with you. Gave it a 5. I definitely think that new Falcon had less cheesy moments than like everybody else. Um, I feel like Marvel's ever since I'm gonna say Ant-Man. Ever since Ant-Man, they've had to have one character be a comedic outlet every single time. Like without fail, there's one character that has to be funny or like or oh my gosh, or they make these smart remarks and just like they're quirky and all these kinds of things. And so that is New Falcon's whole thing. Like he's supposed to be a funny character. He's like for the most part not too serious, but when it comes down to the heat of the moment, then he'll become like a little bit more serious. And he's this younger character, so he thinks that he has it. And like you see that when they're trying to stop this brink of war between America and Japan, like he goes and tries to take a missile, and like you know
It's
Anthony,
yeeted.
he's like, no, don't do it. He's like, no, watch this, and then almost dies.
Yeah.
So, nonetheless, like I like his writing for the most part. Like to me, most of the things that he said, like I don't think they just like perfectly landed and everything,
Sure.
but I liked a good amount of what he had. But I still agree, still has some cheesy lines. Anthony Mackie's character, plenty of cheesy lines.
Sure.
Even Harrison Ford, it felt like they set him up because like in
Yeah.
everything else he's usually a part of, like these smart remarks and things like that. That's a lot of the characters that, at least for me, I know like they land, but
Yeah.
he's supposed to be, the president, and then they give him these like there's just some lines that are just like, what are we doing? Like he's not
Yeah.
saying that. Um so yeah. Ended up giving it a 5. I very, very mid.
Yeah,
Like
for
you
sure.
said, we've seen some great writing in the past and just it's fell off.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, I feel like Marvel and plenty of others have proved that you can have good writing in a superhero movie, like despite kind of the outlandish nature of the
Yeah.
characters at times. But to switch lanes a little bit, talking about the visuals, this is an area that like I've always said like I'm kind of a snob when it comes to the visuals. Like I like things to look a certain way in movies. I like the kind of grandiose scale of things, and so some of this is certainly personal taste, but like this is largely where I've always had kind of a gripe with Marvel is that they they stick to like these very basic bland action shots to like make the superhero look cool, and they don't really ever take it anywhere intriguing, which is where I feel like Christopher Nolan or Matt Reeves have really flourished with their films. And like one of the big reasons that I'm so high on Doctor Strange is it does have some of those moments where it's like a little bit different or interesting comparatively. But anyways, I say all that to say that this one wasn't abysmal. Like there were some cool shots, particularly was it the cherry blossoms at the end that they
Yeah.
were on that street, like cool incorporation for sure. CGI wasn't terrible, but they brought some of these ideas or areas where it could have been so fantastic. Like you're in Washington, D.C., you're at the White House, you're at the Washington Monument, all these cool places. You're, in the middle of the ocean in this naval battle kind of scene, and there's so many areas where they could have included cool stuff visually that I just felt like I don't know, maybe they weren't paying attention to it, or maybe they just approached it differently than I would have liked for them to. Um, so it just didn't maximize those cool elements, particularly with that battle scene where they're in the ocean. It, to me, and maybe this is again personal bias, it felt like they were trying really, really hard to be Marvel Top Gun, and I was like, it got a little cartoonish, and I was like, You're not that guy, pal. You're not that guy. So that was a me thing for sure, maybe. But I did give the visuals a 5, particularly because the CGI wasn't terrible for a movie that did rely on it quite heavily. But
Yeah.
it did get a little cartoonish at a couple moments.
Yeah, that's fair. I was a little bit higher, and maybe it's because I have mainly like the CGI bar so low that like since this one wasn't
Sure.
like awful, like so I ended up giving it a 7. There were moments that I personally thought were cool, whether that's like we already said, the cherry blossoms towards the end of the movie. Um, I liked their battle in the ocean, just because to my knowledge, like off the top of my head, I don't know another Marvel movie that's really done that, unless you want to
Sure.
count like Black Panther 2, kind of like with Namor and all of that.
Yeah.
But like even then, that not really.
Mm-hmm.
So I liked their approach on that. I do see where you're coming from though. Like definitely Marvel Top Gun, absolutely. um, but even like I really liked some of the elements of their fighting scenes is what I kind of enjoyed quite a bit, whether it was towards the beginning at the church when they're trying to save the hostages. I liked um, that element. I liked where they were at the bunker where or the prison or whatever they were
Yeah.
at. Um, it kind of reminded me of Winter Soldier, but like on a Timu level. It wasn't anywhere near like great
Yeah.
performance. But I do appreciate them doing these more close up hand to hand combats. Like I do like um Captain America Falcon. I like his movements. I like his fighting style
Yeah.
because it's very unique to him. So I appreciate that too.
Sure.
But I do agree with you. It does get very bland at times. You are at the White House, and like you said, there's so much that you can do with these scenes where you're at, but you're not fully taking it all. Like
Right.
there's so much more that you can do with these areas, and you don't really maximize it. So gave it a 7.
Yeah, fair enough. Kind of continuing on with this area of the film in talking a little bit about the audio, as far as the audio visual experience. To me, this could have been the theater that we were in because it's like kind of an older theater
Yeah.
that we went to. But there was quite a few moments that felt, as far as the mixing went, that they were kind of muddled down and poor quality at times. As far as the audio and the special effects, like I said, that could have just been where we were at. The soundtrack was, I said it was admirable, but not very memorable.
Yeah.
It didn't really incorporate anything that really sticks out to me too much, other than an old Kendrick Lamar song during the post or during the credits, which
Right.
good for you. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know what else to say. It was all right. I gave it a 6. Like I
Yeah.
didn't have too much of a problem with it, but it just wasn't very memorable.
Yeah. I feel like with this category, there's really never much to talk about if it's just mid. Because I
Yeah,
have it as a 6 as well. Like, if it's not just absolutely terrible that we can just bash on it for a good sec, or if it's
yeah.
not just like incredible and like this immaculate kind of thing, like,
Hmm.
there's, whatever.
Yeah,
Get a 6 from me.
yeah. Fair enough.
Yeah.
But to switch lanes a little bit and talk about, maybe an area we can have a little bit more discussion in talking about the characters here in the film, the acting performances and whatnot. Um, I will say, as far as acting potential wise, I was pretty impressed with what I felt like the actors did with their performances. I'm familiar with Anthony Mackie on a I would say like fairly surface level. Like I know his big films, and he's always pretty decent in his performances. I think he matches the tone that he needs to every time he does it. He's always like pretty believable in the character that he's in. We've given Harrison Ford quite the praise that he deserves earlier here in this episode, but he's always fantastic. Even some of the side characters I wasn't familiar with, I was impressed with. Mr. Big Brain guy, he was cool.
The leader.
Yeah, he was cool. And then, or like as an actor, his character or his performance was pretty solid. He definitely kind of started off with that menacing vibe, which was sick. And then Falcon Jr. was cool. And then Timu Black Widow, honestly, I was kind of impressed with her as well. I didn't know how I was going to feel about her at first when she kind of showed up, but she grew on me a lot as the film went on. So, props there. And what's his name? Mentor guy.
Isaiah
I'm blanking
Bradley.
on all. Yeah,
That's
Isaiah Bradley. Yeah. He did well given his role, which was cool. But what I did also want to say about the character performance here is I felt like the writing of the characters and the direction they gave them kind of failed to maximize the actors' potentials. And that kind of goes back to what you're talking about with moments like Harrison Ford, who's fantastic with these sarcastic, goofy, snarky lines in every film he's in, just not really working for him in this one. Kind of a few cheesier moments as far as what they're asking him to do as an actor. Same with Anthony Mackie and all the side characters as well. Yeah, and as far as character development, I did want to bring this up at this point because I didn't think of a better time, but we talked quite extensively after the movie, like what does Marvel need to do to get things going? And I just really feel like they're failing to engage the audience or create the audience's investment in what they're putting out there because the quality's bad. One, like there needs to be some help in the writing department for sure. But then we're also getting so many of these side characters. Like when I talked about Falcon at the beginning here, saying to me he was like the side character of all side characters. He's like you're literally in the movie. They're like, you need to restart the Avengers.
Yeah.
Okay, so he's the leader of the Avengers now. Who do we got? Miss Marvel? Doctor Strange is a maybe. Korg? Spider-Man?
Korg.
Like, you know what I mean? And like, Falcon Part 2. We're on Falcon Part 2. Like, a guy that I didn't even feel like if you would have never put Falcon in these movies, would I have missed out on something? I don't feel like I would have. So, like, we're bringing in Part 2, and no disrespect to the actor. He's in a Marvel movie, way more successful than I'm ever going to be in my life, and that's fine. But, like, it's just kind of like, where are we going with this? What are we doing here, It's fine for me, like, every once in a while, a good movie with some interesting side characters. Like, if you want to, like, just for principle, not saying that this is the ideal, but like a Thunderbolts movie where you're like, let's bring in all these side characters and make a cool film about them. Or like, let's give them a little TV show about these side characters here. That's cool, but like, to me, the reason the original stretch of movies went so well was because it was characters that we wanted to see. You know what I mean? And I don't know that we're fully getting that at this point right now. And to me, introducing more characters like Senator Bucky and Falcon Part 2 and Captain America Falcon, man, just it wasn't doing it for me. So I gave it a 5.
Wow. That's hilarious. I was a little bit more up on the characters.
Sure.
Granted, we've already talked about all of the writing and where they could have done better, the plots. I think where it takes a hit for me is because it is this Hulk plot line more so than anything than a Captain America one. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like a different character other than Cap would have been cool. Like, even if you try to throw Bruce Banner in it and kind of change it up a little bit, or like, I don't know. I just think
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
like, I feel like the characters also take a hit because of the plot. But with that said, I think they need to stop doing Anthony Mackie like this. They always make him this victim of like, oh, I'm so puny compared to everyone else, and like, what am I doing? Like, it's really annoying at this point because
Yeah.
in Winter Soldier, he held his own, like he was working really well with Cap and Black Widow, and like
Yeah.
he was just going.
Yeah.
Now we have the TV show, which all he does is cry in that movie or in that show, and then in this movie, like, why, like, shut up, like, stop making him sound like this. It's getting really
Yeah.
annoying. I get
You
that he
had your
doesn't.
chance to take the super soldier
Right,
serum. Quit
right,
whining about
yeah. Just shut up and go take some roids then. Um, it's it's just really unfortunate because,
it. Yeah.
like I said, I think he did great in Winter Soldier. Right,
Sure.
like, granted, he is the side, like you said, side character of side characters, but I think he just completely
He's the
filled
third.
the
He's the third side character in that movie.
hole.
No disrespect, but like, let's call a spade a spade.
So I wish they gave him his character more respect than what it seems like, to me at least. Like, dude, you're
Yeah.
going up against Hulks. Dude, like, shut up. Chris Evans Captain America isn't gonna do much better against Hulks. Like, stop complaining, get over yourself, and just go try to do something. Like, shut
Yeah.
up. So that's really the only portion of his character that I was kind of getting annoyed with. Like I said before, Falcon Jr. was cool. Like, I don't
Yeah.
really mind his character. He gives me a lot of like Spider-Man vibes, but less cool, like way less cool. But in like, he's young, he wants to do the right thing. Like, he's learning from. Hold on. In the movie, this dude said that when he was watching on the news and seeing all of the Avengers do all these crazy things, that his favorite one was Falcon.
I want to be Falcon.
Nobody wants to be Falcon. You saw Thor, you saw Hulk, you saw
Yeah.
Iron Man, like Doctor Strange, Black Panther, Spider-Man. You don't want to be Falcon. Don't lie to us. You're an idiot. That was dumb. Anyways, that was his main bad point.
Yeah.
Bucky's little thing was cool. Timu Black Widow was cool. I agree. Grows on you. I wish they either need to stop using Isaiah Bradley or they need to give him something more because his story is cool. Granted, it's another side character. Like, do people really care about his story? Probably not. But if you're gonna use him in these films, like, I feel like they should have given us a little bit more of a background on him.
Sure.
Just because he is super, like, he has the serum. Bro went to prison, like, was doing all of the right things and then went to prison. Like, his story is cool.
Right.
I think it's his nephew. He's in. I think it's either the comics or like, I don't know if you've ever seen the Young Avengers, the animated film from a long time ago. But so Isaiah Bradley's nephew is supposed to be Iron Patriot,
Mm-hmm.
and that's kind of Young Avengers. Anyways, super cool in my opinion.
Yeah. Sure.
Harrison Ford could have done better with him. I feel like they really fumbled the bag using Harrison Ford and didn't really do much with him.
Sure.
But I gave characters a 7. Enough of me rambling.
No, I mean, all good points for sure. Yeah, and to your point about like, should we even explore side characters? To kind of further my view on it, I don't think side characters are bad. I think they're fantastic.
Yeah.
But you have to, one, work with them the way that they're supposed to be worked with, or worked, I guess worked with, in furthering the story of the plot and in creating more dynamics within the plot. And a perfect example is Winter Soldier, like you're talking about, as a movie that you really enjoy. An area that I'll give it some good praise on is the Winter Soldier. He kind of starts off as the bad guy in the film, and then, we obviously get into this bigger plot. That's a whole other thing, right? But as a side character, they do him a ton of justice by giving him a backstory. You have a setup from the first Captain America that, one, makes you interested in who he is. Two, you get more development on why he's in the predicament that he's in, why he's in the situation he's in, and why you should care about that in Winter Soldier. You even get more once we move into Civil War territory, and you get all of that plot line in addition to it, And so we're at the point where, do I feel like Bucky can be a solo character or the main character? Maybe, but I still feel like he's best as a side character, but that doesn't mean I'm not invested or interested in what they've built his character up to be.
Yeah.
But too often we get these kinds of things where it's like, you and I remember Budapest very differently. Ha ha ha. What the heck does that mean? We're 20 years into this thing and no one knows what we're talking about. You know what I mean? That's kind of where we're at. Oh, let's do a little movie about Black Widow side quest to fight the Red Guardian in the middle of the Avengers Infinity War saga. Who cares? We want to know what's going on. Like, why she is who she is.
What happened in Budapest?
Yeah, anyways.
See, I'll add on, like, the thing that I try to figure out with Marvel is, where do we go from here? Like, even just storyline. Because, like, I'm not even talking about the Fantastic Four and, like, the mutants. Like, take them out of it. Because I'm just going to hope that they deal with them very nicely. Like, it's their start. Like it's Iron Man. Like, give them their start.
And they deserve it.
They do. But when it comes to, like, the MCU and the Avengers, where do we go from here? What character are we using that we haven't already used? Like, one of the very few that come to my mind, like, you could do a reboot of Ghost Rider. Like, the last time we saw him was Nicolas Cage, like, early 2000s. Like, you could do that. But, like, who else is there that isn't, like, I don't know.
Yeah, to give my personal opinion on that take, I think when you continually beat a dead horse, you run the risk of running into where Marvel is right now. Because it's like, oh, we want to still capitalize and profit off this Captain America storyline that so many people love. What do we do now? Okay, let's try to switch it so that it's different, but it's really kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
There's a reason that a trilogy like The Dark Knight, just as a reference, is so coveted and beloved by a lot of movie fans. And I think a big part of that is they don't run the risk of doing a Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Robin, or Batman Beyond, or whatever thing, and bring Christopher Nolan and Christian Bale back and try to expand that storyline at all. I think letting it be what it is great. And then, you know what? Give it some time, let it resonate with people. Forget that Ben Affleck existed, for one, but then let Robert Pattinson do something different with the character. It's kind of, I guess, another example, and I don't know how familiar you are with this, is the James Bond idea. James Bond is like an iconic character, one of the most iconic movie characters ever.
Yeah.
But the idea of James Bond is not that James Bond is Daniel Craig specifically, or, pick any number of former Pierce Brosnan or whoever else you want to pick as James Bond from the past, is that James Bond is not those, but James Bond is a character and open, and it's like as such is free to slightly different interpretations revolving around the same core elements. And so to me, like, who's Batman? Well, they all are for different reasons. You know, like Michael Keaton has his aspects that are fantastic. Christian Bale has his interpretation that's brilliant. Robert Pattinson takes it in a different direction and it works fantastically. Like, you don't need to be afraid. Like, I don't want to keep getting just rehashed ideas back to back to back, right? But let something work and then do it a different way, or like let someone else pick up their interpretation. So like, for all the great that Kevin Feige's done, that's awesome. But like, I want to see how someone else handles the Iron Man character in 5 years or so.
Yeah.
I want to see how someone else handles a Hulk film. Hulk, you know, we really haven't gotten a great Hulk film ever, in my opinion, but we haven't really gotten a Hulk focused film in what, like since 2007, 2006?
Yeah.
Somewhere around there?
Yeah.
But anyways, you know, to further answer that question, I guess.
You think it's just time? Push the button.
Well, I don't know. I don't necessarily think that, but if you do want to continue in this universe with these ideas, I think you have to go into territory that people are going to be interested in. You know, a lot of people argue that there hasn't really been a well done Fantastic Four film ever. You know, I like elements of past ones. That's just me.
Yeah,
but like, do some.
The disrespect on the very first Fantastic Four is crazy. I thought that was a great film.
Sure. So like, do something well with them, which hopefully they're doing, right?
Yeah.
Another one, you know, Blade is an interesting one. Ghost Rider, one that you brought up. Personally, you know, I'm stoked that they're doing a Daredevil Born Again show. It hasn't been too bad so far, but like, I would have loved to see, you know, a cinematic version of that where it's, you know, that street level scale that we love about Daredevil's films or TV show, but like, it gives him his spotlight that he's maybe been deserving of because of how great that stretch of show is.
Yeah.
So I think it's just about picking your moments, but then if you're going to do something, and you're going to do it unapologetically the way you want to do it. You want to bring in Falcon. You want to bring in, you know, Ironheart or whatever her name is from Black Panther 2. You want to do all these characters that you're passionate about that aren't the forefront. That's fine, but do it well. Do it full-fledged. Do it with good writing. Do it with great visuals. Make it memorable, because look at Into the Spider-Verse and Across the Spider-Verse.
Yeah.
Those movies are fantastic, and they feature minimal Peter Parker Spider-Man.
Yeah.
It's Miles Morales, it's Spider-Gwen, Spider-Man 2099. You incorporate characters that, you know, the hardcore fans are going to know and they're going to love, but the common fan may not be super familiar with it, but they're done so well that people love them.
Right.
So, you know, it's kind of a two-edged approach for me is what I think they need to do.
Yeah.
To circle back to the plot, just because you brought up more plot elements that I was thinking about, the marketing for this film was done all wrong. They're building up this like Red Hulk reveal the whole movie like it's going to be something crazy, and we're literally sitting there next to some dude who has him in the like on the popcorn bucket. It's like, don't make your most interesting turn in the movie so obvious. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Anyways.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was a long-winded response. I didn't realize that I was talking for like 10 minutes.
No, it's fine. It's fine. Things need to be said. Marvel needs to hire us.
Put Jaden on the team. I mean, he'll make it work.
I'll figure it out.
We've talked quite extensively about the enjoyability, but what I'll just conclude by saying is I went to a little hibachi teppanyaki place last night, and I was enjoying myself much more there than I was enjoying this movie. You know, the guy was hilarious. The food was fantastic. It was like entertaining. The visuals were great. It was original. It was witty. It was everything that I wanted to see. Not to say that this one was garbage, but I did give it a 5.
Yeah.
Probably wouldn't go out of my way to see it again.
Yeah, I gave it a 6. It was cool. Like I said, it was much better than I initially thought it was going to be. Could have been way better. Could have been a Hulk film. Could have been this. Could have been that. Sure. But there are elements of the movie that I can say that I do appreciate. And the only time I'm going to watch this again is if I decide to put myself through some kind of marathon.
Yeah.
So,
And so be it.
yeah, so be it.
Well, any thoughts before we wrap this thing up today?
Find my number. Give me a call. Shoot me a text. Get me over to Hollywood. I feel like I can help. I feel like I can do something.
I mean, y'all may have seen J-Mac's photo on the gram in utilizing the one and only Jonah's Captain America suit.
I'm
It
ready.
could happen.
I'm ready. Suit up. I'm ready.
Make it happen. It's time.
I can do something. Cap needs to be younger anyway.
Reboot. This one ended up coming out to a 5.3 out of 10 for me. Yeah. So
I gave it
not my favorite movie.
Came out to a 6.1 for me.
So and there you have it. Well, if you enjoyed Captain America more than we did, let us know. Let us know where we're missing out, and we'll be back next week, maybe with some Playboy Cardi. We'll see where it takes us.
Yeah. Yeah. As the French say, bonsoir.
Auf Wiedersehen.
What?